Ogre Objective 218. This is the remake of an older game that was called Battle for Hill 218. Now, the same game has been, well, has received a facelift and has been given an ogre theme. Also, a couple of mechanics have been changed to fit the new theme, but basically, if you know the old game, you'll be very familiar with this one, which really is very similar. The box, as you can see, is pretty small, very portable game. At the center of the game, you will place this mini board here that represents the command post of the two sides. This is a game for 2 players only. Each player will have a main deck of cards that they will play during the game, and they will place them on and then around their command post, forming command chains of units and trying to take control of the command post of the opponent, plus 4 special cards. One is cruise missiles, they don't go in the main deck, they can be played to destroy enemy cards, and one is damage ogres. The regular ogre units are in the deck. When they're played, the ogres can take 2 hits before they're destroyed, so the first time a ogre takes a hit, you replace the standard ogre with the damage ogre card, and the second time you remove it entirely. Regular units simply are destroyed when they take a single hit. The way it works, each player will have a hand of cards, and during your turn you will play 2 cards. Playing the ogre counts as playing 2 cards, otherwise you play 2 standard ones. The cards have important information here on the right side. Supply, it is where the card can provide supplies to other units. Attack, which is the direction in which they can attack. And target, which is where they can lend support to other units. You have to imagine that the game is played on a grid. Basically, there is an invisible grid made of the units that are being placed around. I'm putting them totally randomly. I don't even know that the placement is legal, but it's to give you a sense. So, when you are placing a new card, you need to make sure that it is in supply. That means it needs to be in the still empty, I would say, virtual box of the grid that an adjacent card is lending support to, is sending supplies to. In this case, this card sends supply this way, and this way, also theoretically this way, but this area is not playable, so I can play a card here legally, and suppose that I play my beautiful ogre here. That means that when I play future cards, I can place them all around, including diagonally, because the ogre also lends a supply diagonally. When you play a card, the second it is played, it can attack, and actually that's the only time when it is attack. You put down a card, making sure you have supply line to do so, you attack, and then the card is pretty much spent. All it can do is to lend the supply, is to give supplies to future units. There are 2 types of attack. One is this power attack, represented by these flames here. All it does, it simply destroys an enemy unit that is within that grid. And the ogre attacks twice, so this enemy unit and this enemy unit are in position. When I play the ogre, I can attack twice, boom, boom, I can destroy these 2 cards, for example. And this is for that attack that has the flame. So then we have this attack here with the hair cross, and this it works differently because that one requires support. For example, suppose that we have the situation here, and I am placing my infantry here, which is legal because the ogre is giving me supply. Now, as you can see, this unit can attack but requires support because of that symbol. That means that the card that I am attacking needs to be a viable legal target for the unit that is attacking and for another unit that is giving support. So that card that I'm attacking needs to be both a target for the active unit's attack and in the support grid for another unit. In this case, this would be a legal attack. I play this card thanks to the symbol I'm attacking here, and thanks to this symbol, as you can see, 1, 2, the ogre is lending support. Boom, kaboom. When you have an ogre around, giving support is particularly easy. In other cases, it can get a little trickier. Also, there are cases where you cannot attack adjacent. It's a distant attack at a certain distance. So as you can see, for example, this card placed here would need to skip this one, but would be able to inflict a hit on the Ogre. This sort of thing. So you move around like this, you form supply lines, and you attack enemy cards. Again, special cards are the cruise missile, we talked about that, the damage ogre. There's also this unit here. As you can see, it has a lightning symbol there, which means that it can be played none in supply, which is particularly powerful because then you may have a unit that is lending support, that has support somewhere, and then you place this one next to the enemy unit. And so you have more flexibility there. Otherwise, there are other cases in which by the time you put a support there and then the attack, the opponent has done something else. But this is the general idea. You form supply lines and destroy enemy units as the opponent is doing the same to you. And you're trying to occupy the command post of the opponent. If you do so, you win the game immediately. It may be that the players keep slaughtering each other until there are no cards that can be legally played anymore, and at that point the player that wins is the one that has the most cards on the table. An undamaged ogre counts as 2 cards, and then you see who has majority, and it is possible to have a tie. And this is how Ogre Objective 218 works. Very simple game. Exactly like in the spirit of the original game. It's a war-themed game, but again, it's fairly abstract, and so it's almost like more of a war-themed game than a war game, especially the fact that an infantry unit may sit there and lend support and give support or supply for like the entire game while ever attacking again. They only get that moment of glory when they enter the board. So there are all these abstractions that are not fully wargamey, but at the same time, at least there are some concepts such as supply lines, such as support that are there. I would say the concepts are interesting because they are wargame concept and warfare concept. The implementation is a little bit abstract, but that is fine. It can still be a way at least to get your friends that are not wargamer curious about games that deal with war. So it can be an intermediate step to kind of like recruit them as future wargamers. Or in general, what I like is that it's such a simple, light game that you can play anywhere. You can play it at a pub, you can bring it with you, it's fast to set up, it's fast to teach, you can play with non-hardcore gamer. So definitely there are a lot of situations in which this could be a good game. It couldn't be a play with your spouse game in my family, for example, because 2-player games may have that function, but in my family, my wife doesn't like games that are too confrontational, and this one is entirely about destroying the units of the opponent. So play with your spouse, well, depends on the kind of games that your spouse likes. There's some play with your spouse games that are easier crowd pleasers. This one is for people that don't mind a great deal of confrontation in the game. Now, as for gameplay, again, it's interesting. It's very simple, yes, but there is enough thinking to be done there to keep the game interesting. Yes, sometimes it gets tug-of-war-ish, it's back and forth, I destroy your units, you destroy my units, I destroy your units, and sometimes it looks like it's a little stagnant, we get a little bit of a stall, but usually after you play a little bit, after a couple of turns, somebody will be able to find an opening, will be able to exploit an opportunity. In fact, very often I found that victory is based not on your long-term planning, which you can't really do because you rely on a hand of cards and you don't know exactly when you're going to get the right ones. Rather, victory tends to rely on an opponent making a mistake. So it's really not so much about long-term planning, but remaining aware, remaining alert, and see where the opponent gives you an opening. And that is not something that everybody likes. Some people like to have more structure as opposed to always being very guarded about not being the one that makes a mistake. And of course, when you win, sometimes it does feel anticlimactic because you've been playing a lot and then the opponent makes a single mistake and poof. But by a lot, I mean 15 minutes because the game, it is short. So it's not like you play for 3 hours and then a single mistake throws the game in one direction rather than the other. That would be a flaw in a game that is so simple, so quick, you can set up so easily and play multiple times in an evening or even in an hour. Well, then to me, the fact that victory may be based on a single move to me is not a problem. It's not a problem. Overall, the components are great, gameplay is fun with those little 2 or 3 caveats that I mentioned, which again is not negative. I don't feel them as negative. I just feel that in some cases they may not sit well with every player. For for most war gamers that don't mind a war-themed game that is a little lighter than our usual war game fare. For non-war gamers, for casual gamers that do not mind a game that has a strong theme and a high degree of confrontation. Well, for all these people, I think that Ogre Objective 218 can be a good game. Definitely, it is a game that I enjoyed and that I'm happy to have in my collection.